the shop we have here. It's in next to Corb Tackle in Lisbon, and you can see a lot of coral in there. We have a huge range, and it changes all the time, so it's quite nice. So again, here's some more close-ups of some of the nicer pieces. So again, here's some zoanthids, Saganophora. This is a very nice, this is called an albopora. It's a beautiful, beautiful coral. They're quite a long stalk, but again, it's a stony. So we would call this an LPS, or large polyp stony coral. And basically, this also has a stony skeleton and can also build reef, but they do it much slower, and they grow much slower than the small polyp stony types. So anyway, it's just something different, you know? Different species. Here's a close-up of clams from the inside. And now this is interesting because we took this picture with the flash on purpose, just to show you the difference of with the blue light here, how it brings out the phosphorescence. And so these pieces, you see, there's no real glow off them until you add the blue light here. And all we're doing is taking away other frequencies of light, and just the blue remains. So that's kind of how that works. And you can see here, this is really brings out the phosphorescence. This is what we call a chalice coral. And so one of the new crazy people love these guys now. So here's a few more nice pieces just to gawk at. Okay, seahorses. So does anybody know anything about seahorses so far? Anyone got some myths or legends? Any brave souls? Okay, all right. So the seahorse, it's an interesting animal. Many people still actually don't believe they're real. Of course, they very much are. We're discovering new species all the time. Unfortunately, as quick as we're discovering these new species, they're having problems and they're getting in trouble. So the seahorse is quite a small fish, which again enables us to really focus on them in Korea. There are a lot of species are on the ICN red list, which means threatened or endangered. This means that these seahorses are in trouble and need help. So it's important to note 150 million are taken from the wild every year just for the Chinese medicine trade. Okay? So it's quite substantial numbers. This 150 million, you know. Other areas that are hurting seahorses, for example, is the curio trade, you know, where you see little dried seahorses in a paperweight or an earring or such. That accounts for roughly 1 million. The aquarium trade still takes a small amount, but that's reducing quicker and quicker as people become more educated. And because of this, the seahorses are really, really getting in trouble. We're quite worried. There's several reasons why seahorses are particularly susceptible. The males become pregnant, for example. Many people don't know this, and were actually recently discovered. It seems they actually provide a nourishment to the babies inside in the pouch, because the eggs have a smaller weight than the larvae when they are released. This means they must gain that additional energy and weight from somewhere. It can't be just water weight, because the water's removed, you see. So interesting. It seems the male has like a type of placenta inside, but again, we're still it's new stuff, you know. Many species will mate for life, completely monogamous. They stay in very small areas, as in anywhere from 1 to 10 square meters generally. Some of the tiny, tiny species, they live on a sea fan, for example, that size. The seahorses, pygmies, whatever they're called, they're only 11 to 22 mil, all the species. We found about 20 to 30 so far, I think. They only ever inhabit a sea fan that size. That's it. When they release their larvae, the larvae can develop within a 10-meter area, for example, and they have to settle, and that's it. If they don't get to settle within that zone, they've missed their chance, you know? So it gives you an idea of just how susceptible just such a small area is, you know? They have very, very complex social behaviors, which is part of what I really just find amazing. You see very visual signs between the two of them communicating with each other. And then the male and female pairs every morning will twist the tails together like this and do a spiral to the surface and come back down. So it's quite amazing to see this. You know, you can see there's more to it than just a fish, if you know what I mean. You know, it's quite an interesting species. In general, seahorses have very low survival rates. They breed anywhere from, let's say, 10 offspring to 5,000 to 6,000 for some of the larger species. But again, they have trouble surviving, just like most fish in the ocean. Everything is trying to eat everything else. So they have a tendency to get snapped up pretty quick. Now some examples, there's 2 ways seahorses generally breed. They either have bethnic or pelagic young. Bethnic young means to settle on the bottom straight away after they're born. So basically they come out of the pouch and very soon are looking for a site to host on. Now the pelagic young are totally the opposite. Straight away they go off and they drift into the plankton layer. And they can stay in there for days to weeks, depending on the species, and then they drift down to a new host site. These species aren't quite as susceptible, but they also happen to be the ones that are generally the most fished. So it's a double whammy for them. Now the good news is they can be reproduced in captivity quite easily, but there's still no way to reproduce them commercially for the medicinal trade. So unfortunately this is quite bad for the seahorses. Now you can see from the map here, they're found almost everywhere. So laser pointers disappeared. Anyway, you can see here from the map. Basically, they're found almost everywhere in the world, including Ireland, all over the Central Americas, Pacific, all the way up here. For example, one species I have in the G Hotel is Hippocampus erectus. This is their range, the entire eastern seaboard of the United States. So it's quite interesting. And again, throughout Asia, there's more and more species. There's different species, like for example, the zebra seahorse. We've only ever found 5. We know they live between 70 and 300 meters deep, but again, we've only ever found 5. So it's quite interesting, you know. Does anybody know if there's a seahorse in Ireland? Yes, this is the Irish seahorse, the spiny seahorse, Hippocampus cutaneus. They're found pretty much almost all the way around Ireland. You can see from the map here. Now I have heard reports of them being found in certain parts of Connemara as well, but again, you know, they're quite a nice species. They're very have many extensions coming off the body to help them camouflage and seaweeds and such. So again, they're everywhere. So they're quite interesting, you know. So this is the main issue facing the seahorses. This is what overfishing is doing to them right now, and this is why organizations such as the Seahorse, sorry, I'm losing. Save the Seahorse Foundation and such are important. There's also the Seahorse Trust. There's a few other, and it's mainly just to organize people to try and save the seahorses. You know, the more of us that sign up and have a force and a say in this kind of thing, the more we can help to stop prevent overfishing of seahorses. You know, if we don't do something, they will be gone soon. Unfortunately, you know. And again, the main problem is the Chinese medicine trade, as you can see here. This is my business partner, Keelan Doyle. Some of you might have heard of him. Some of you might have seen the documentary, The Seahorse Man. This is himself over in China. And you can see here, this is all just bags of seahorses. All this. So each one of these bags could have, 10, 20,000 seahorses. Look at this. Just piles and piles of dead seahorses. And when you actually put into scale, one bag like this, that could be, 30 or 40 square kilometers worth of natural habitat of seahorses to make a bag like that. So it's phenomenal. And this is just one of hundreds of shops found in China. So it's quite scary. So Keelan is quite an interesting man. He tried to set up a commercial farm to help save the seahorses and to try and offer an alternative to wild caught for the Chinese medicine trade. Quite interesting. So he started Seahorse Ireland several years ago. I couldn't tell you the exact date, but it's been quite a few years. And their main aim was to try and commercially propagate seahorses. Now, they were very successful in breeding seahorses and had no problem there. Now, it's quite difficult to make up numbers to reach commercial rates. Anybody have an idea just how much they cost? Anybody ever heard the figure? It's 750 euros roughly per kilo. But think about it. Each seahorse is maybe 3 to 10 grams. So imagine how many seahorses it takes to make 1 kilo. And it hits on just the scale of the problem, you know? So, I mean, this tank, for example, would be maybe 400 or 500 liters. And in this, you could only produce maybe 300 or 400 seahorses. So your numbers are quite low. So to hit the kind of numbers we need to really make a dent in the wild harvest is it's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So after the closure of Seahorse Ireland, Keelan moved on to form Seahorse Aquariums. The main purpose of Seahorse Aquarium is both to provide a great service for people looking to get into aquarium, but also to help provide private funding for our continued research. We have a seahorse lab in Dublin that we continue to breed seahorses and look at different methods and tricks and see what works and what doesn't and trying to find a way through the problem. It's never ending. It's a lifetime's work for many people, so it's quite nice. He did a documentary for 4 hours on RT, Seahorse Man. I know some of you have seen it. Again, trying to raise awareness about the seahorses and just bring the importance of the situation to them. And now we've also started the Save Our Seahorse Foundation, which is basically a web portal for numbers to gather and help to create a force against this. So far we've had quite a good luck. So thanks to the Seahorse Foundation, the Seahorse Trust working together, eBay have stopped selling all seahorses. All trade all over eBay has now been stopped with seahorses, which is great news. You can see the numbers yourself, 500,000 a year on just on eBay. So, you know, this is progress. So I encourage you guys all to sign up to the Save Our Seahorse Foundation, saveourseahorses.org, and you just fill out the form, provide your email, and if we're just gathering numbers to help, you know, save our seahorses. I think I'm still pretty good on time. Okay, there's a nice place you can see a few seahorses locally. In the G Hotel several years ago, I set up a seahorse aquarium. It was a bit of an experiment in that I wanted to try and look at a different way of keeping them in captivity, as opposed to these sterile type tank conditions where you might have a rope or a piece of seaweed or some fake means for them to have a hold fast, and you were continuously looking at feeding and cleaning the tank. I wanted to try and do it based on ecosystem method. Now what ecosystem method is basically just relying on the organisms themselves to balance out the system. And this is quite interesting. It's been tremendously successful. The last seahorse was added over 2 years ago. We haven't lost a seahorse in well over 2 years. You'll see the babies in this, and now they're, you know, I got a little warm during the lecture and realized I saw them 2 years ago. You know, so it's quite interesting. A little bit of statistics about the aquarium. It's a 3 meter by 60 by 60, so quite large. It's approximately a 1,200 liter system, so it's a large volume of water. The temperature is seasonal. In other words, I varied a little bit with the seasons, as this would be part of any seahorse natural habitat. I believe it's kind of important. So I range it from 23 to 28 degrees Celsius. The salinity is full reef salinity, which is 35 ppm or 1.025 density. Featured livestock is really just all the seahorses, pipefish, and what I would call compatible species, like for example the Bengal cardinalfish. It's basically other fish that can inhabit the same ecosystem, but without competing for food. So it's very important because the main challenge in keeping seahorses in captivity is keeping them well fed. Have any of you ever heard that seahorse has no stomach? They have absolutely no stomach. So they have to continuously peck away and feed all the time. So it's quite important that you know, we can't feed our seahorses 5-6 times a day. It's just, you know, not possible in our busy modern times. So it's important to come up with new creative ways to do this. Now, nutrition-wise, it only gets fed twice a day, the tank. And we're basically using a small little frozen shrimp called a mysid shrimp. I'm sure you'll come across them in your studies on plankton. It's basically a large zooplankton. Seahorses love them, but mainly they have a very high omega and HUFA rates, so it provides a lot of nutrition to keep them healthy. And other than that, all I do to balance the tank is a bit of a water change, and I rebalance a few of the elements, like calcium, magnesium, bicarbonate, and some of the trace elements. That's just to keep the seaweeds healthy, that's all. So before I did the aquarium, the first thing I had to do was come up with a plan, you know? So as basic as it is, this you'll see it now materialize in the next few slides. This is all I came up with. So you know, just large piles of rockwork. The idea of the live rockwork is that the plankton itself can breed and harbor away and hide away inside the rock, and then this will help to feed the seahorses. And then you just have a few pumps in there to help circulate the water and such. So anyway, we'll move on to the tank itself. So this was the very beginning, and you can see the rock was basically pretty clean and not much life on it. I actually used mostly dead ocean rock, which is rock that's been removed from the water a long time ago. So it's used to be living coral rock, but it's, you know, could be 10,000 years ago, and it's mined from land. So it's the same density and structure, but it's dead. So then you seed it with a living rock, and the living rock will eventually, you know, inhabit the dead rock, and there's no difference after about 3 to 4 months. So anyway, you'll see in the next few slides. This was, let me see, about 3.5 years ago. So here's adding a few of the seahorses. The Bengal cardinalfish I mentioned earlier, the endangered species. It's good to breed as many as you can, anywhere you can. And, you know, jug full of seahorses. And so you can also see in these slides, it's just where we started to add the seaweeds, just literally how small these pieces were. So I mean, this piece itself is probably about 5 centimeters this way. And again, there's another small piece on the other side. So all you have to do then is culture life the right way, give it time, and you end up with this. So it's been quite a success. This is over 2 years ago, these photographs, which is quite nice. Everything you see is a live creature or live animal. Again, you see all this rock work is now purple with coralline algae. There's living coral here. This is all different types of caulipa seaweeds. This is, I can't remember the species name to be honest, a gorgonian coral. This is an interesting shrimp fish, relative to the seahorse. Again, some more of the peaceful species that just won't bother. I have Nemo. You know. A few shrimps in here, but in general, you can just see how much the life has bloomed. Again, I mentioned little baby seahorse. He's there. You can see a few more shots. The copper band butterfly is a really beautiful fish. Quite interesting, this fish. He was originally taken from the ocean, somewhere in the Pacific. I can't tell you the exact place because no one told me. But now he's learned that when I come to clean the aquarium, I stir up the plankton. As a result, he's kind of like a little puppy. And he follows me around within about 4 inches of my hand the entire time I work on the tank. But it's just quite amazing how a wild fish has learned this, and you know, it's completely like happy and adapted to conditions now, and it still amazes me, you know. But there's a few more shots here. So this is down the 3 meter from the end panel, quite like this one. You can see a pair of seahorses there. You can see the shrimp fish are quite interesting. They naturally host in sea urchins. This is the mouth. There's the eye. And they actually swim with the anal fin. The caudal, which is the tail, has long since turned into a spike, and you can't even see it. The fins are ultra clear, but it's the anal fin here swims like a normal tail fin, flutters like that. It's quite a strange looking fish. I encourage all of you to go have a look at the tank. Anyone with a marine biology interest will have a small appreciation for this tank. It's quite an interesting experience, you know. Here's a few more close-ups. So here we have the Banggai cardinal fish. This is quite interesting. You can actually see the eggs here inside the throat. Here's the banded pipefish, which is a cousin of the seahorses. And this is the baby seahorses. At the time, he was maybe this, and he's now fairly grown, happy, you know. They breed regularly too as well. Here's our colony of clownfish. I won't say no anymore. And these are Ocellaris. This is a toadstool coral. Just to give you a few ideas. Here's another shot. But you can see how just everything is living, and we've managed to use the ecosystem to create a quite beautiful aquarium, as well as creating a thriving habitat for the seahorses. So just a few more shots. Close up of the Banggais with the eggs. Anyway, again, I encourage you to go to the Save Our Seahorses Foundation, sign up, and help spread awareness and all this. And if anybody wants to learn more about coral farming, I encourage you to come down and see me in the shop. I'll even show you how I do it down there. I've had a huge interest in coral farming for over 10 years now. It's like an addiction. So it's a long and complex subject we could talk a long time about, and I hope I come back and talk more about it in little segments. But again, come down and see us, and thank you. If anybody has any questions, please fire away. Okay, go ahead.
With regards to the internships that you actually do for the Save Our Seahorses, is it for the Save Our Seahorse or for the Seahorse Aquarium?
The Seahorse Aquariums. The Save Our Seahorse Foundation is a non-profit, website-based organization.
And there's volunteering?
Yeah, it's basically for someone who wants to get into the aquatic retail industry in some way or another. Now, there's many facets within that industry, including fish veterinary, for example. Again, captive propagation, as well as just your normal standard sales. So we're offering a way in that door, basically, and to give you a bit of training and to see if you like it and taste it before you go straight into it. It's hard work, I promise you. I've been a whole day in the shop already. I was writing the lecture last night after a full day in the shop, so you can imagine, but it's great.
How long are the internships?
It really depends on the person and the situation, is the best way I can say.
So long as they're like
No, but it's not that kind of situation, really.
Okay.
No problem. Anybody else? Okay, no problem.